Every energy healer knows how important it is to keep the session space clear when they're with clients. We also want the client's personal space clear and the practitioner's personal space clear. This way, neither individual takes on unwanted energy from the other. Makes sense, right? To accomplish that requires first and foremost that the session space is well defined, that there are clear boundaries between where the client's space begins and ends and where the practitioner's space begins and ends, because they should not overlap. It is simply not true that a practitioner has to enter a client's space in order to effect change. In fact, doing so encroaches. The more sensitive client might feel pressure or discomfort, or at worst, feel intruded upon. Plus, the practitioner risks taking on the client's energy. It's safer, easier, and your work is far more effective when your boundaries meet but do not overlap. Then you're able to see and sense what's going on with your client because you're more objective. It's like watching a screen of a movie. This way, your energies stay on your side of the session boundary and your clients remain on the other. When this session boundary is sacrosanct and the practitioner well-trained and the practitioner's thoughts and emotions don't encroach on the client and vice versa, it is then nearly certain that the practitioner will leave the session feeling clear and unencumbered by the client's unwanted energy and vice versa. But maintaining a sacrosanct boundary between client and practitioner requires that the practitioner does not violate the session boundary. And this means not sending anything through that boundary. This includes their feelings and thoughts about the client or about anything else if their attention happens to stray from the session space. It also includes sending light or healing energy from outside into the session space. Even if it's spiritual or a universal source, it's still entering the client's space. Don't believe me? Let me explain. The mechanics of sending light to someone else necessitates that a sender has an intention for that light. Otherwise, why would they send it? So what is that intent? Is it to see a certain change in the client? To initiate or speed up healing? Does the practitioner feel sorry for the client or harbor any emotion at all? Because any thoughts or feelings that a practitioner has when this light is directed to another person will be magnified by that light and also embedded by that light because it's riding that light. It gets embedded into the person's energy field. There's no way around it. It's energetic mechanics. You can't send light to another person without your own thoughts and feelings riding upon it, no matter how pure or spiritual the light was to begin with. Let me explain how complicated this can become. Let's say a well-meaning practitioner wants to see her client get well and sends light to the client during a distant healing session. Eventually, the individual does resolve the health issue, but one day begins to feel haunted by a foreign energy. You guessed it, it's the practitioner's own intention that rode upon the light and is now residing in the client's body. And even though that thought was originally positive and well-wishing, it's now in the way. It's now obstructive because it is foreign. The client is healed and moved beyond the issue and wants to take another step, but the practitioner's intent is still there, hoping the old issue will heal and is essentially holding the client back. The client needs to get rid of it to move on, to get past the issue, to take the next step. Now, you might think that practitioner's intention would be easily released. Well, not so, because the client originally didn't know it was there. They didn't know it was being sent along with the light during the healing session. Intention initiates programming. In this example, to heal from a certain condition. But if the client has already moved past the issue, and yet that programming remains, it can feel like negative, unwanted energy that's encroaching on them or that's holding them back. So keep your healing space pure. Learn to nurture your client's own light and the intelligence it represents. rather than sending light along with the unintended piggyback of your own good intentions.